So if you're willing, I'd like to ask you, Kevin Swill, what is the biggest risk?
Right now, the biggest risk that we have are borrowers that are out there that either need to sell their asset. One, because their partner is a fund and the fund will only hold an asset for 5 years. And their underwriting and their performers over the last, look, we've been in a great situation for the last, 10 to 12 years where interest rates have been historically low. But again, people that have been in the industry for 20 years know that, the average loan should be on a commercial real estate should be anywhere between, let's say, 6.5 to 9% based on the asset class. But people have forgotten that. So for me right now, where I see the greatest risk are people that were involved with partners that have a hold period and are now in a situation like today, as we speak today on this call, that have no choice but to sell their asset or refinance to buy their partners out. And they're in an environment where they may have a loan that they were only paying 2.5, 3% on when they got that loan. But now they're looking at paying almost 6%. And the question is, who's going to buy that? Who's going to buy that? If you understand the market, but you understand the underwriting of the asset, it can become cost prohibitive. So I have, for example, the founder of our company, Rob Finlay, has a portfolio and he has put up a couple of his assets for sale. Every one of them has now been retraded and retraded to the point where he's taken it off the market because it doesn't make sense. Because interest rates keep rising to the point where for a buyer, it's almost becoming cost prohibitive. And they're waiting for the markets to really slow down. Let's see what happens. Everyone talks about recession. Where is the risk for the borrower? It's when they're being pushed or forced to sell their asset because they have partners that it's their mandate. That's where I find some risk. Whether or not it makes an opportunity for someone that is going to buy and be able to renegotiate almost like a distressed asset, they may get lucky. Or the borrower is going to have to renegotiate with that fund or that borrower, that partner, and ask for a 1-year extension because of where the market is. But that's where I think the risk is. I think the risk is anyone that's trying to sell right now or being forced to sell is going to have a difficult time finding a buyer that makes the numbers work until we can really figure out, because again, for the last 10 or 12 years, anyone that owned property, they were making cash. It was like a cash cow.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we're in different times now and the cash slows down. And it's an interesting, it could be an opportunity for some, but it's a very high risk for others. And, interest rate risk is hurting everybody in every industry, I think, right now, until we can figure out what's going on with the inflation, until we can figure out what really is going on with interest rates. And on top of all of this, in commercial real estate, you have no more LIBOR that we've had for, almost a century. And now all of a sudden it is converting to SOFR. So
Right.
again, it goes back to the floating rate in the bridge loans that were based on LIBOR. Come July of 2023, if you're not a sophisticated borrower, overnight, you're going to get a letter that just said, by the way, by not law, but by regulation, we have to change your LIBOR to SOFR. And your LIBOR might have been, when you got it, very, very low. But in July of 2023, it might be double. And that's a
Right.
risk you're going to take. So we tell everybody, let us help you, or review your loan documents. Make sure that if you have a LIBOR loan, that you call your advisor You figure out a way to convert it today over to SOFR while they're pretty close in pricing, because you don't know what's going to happen by next year. And July of 23, there isn't any extension to that. There will no
Right.
longer be any LIBOR. That's the risks.